name is Eric. I work with Forte. Today I'm going to show you a short series of exercises that you can do in a chair focused on your core and your legs. This chair that I'm using is what's called a counter height chair. It's a little bit lower than a bar stool, but higher than a regular chair. You can use whatever size chair that you want to. I find this one works well for me for range of motion based on my height and things along those lines. There are benefits to higher and lower chairs. It kind of comes down to your own flexibility. I will say that if you have bad knees and you have to do a sit to stand, which we will do as one of the exercises today, a slightly higher seat works a little bit better for you, at least in the beginning. So I'm going to get started. The first thing we're going to do, and again, we're just going to do almost all of this sitting down, is just to reach overhead. So I'm just going to reach overhead and reach overhead. And as I'm doing so, this is kind of a warm up. And this is something that you can easily do, at your desk at work, at your desk at home, if you're working from home, which is what I do a lot, as you can probably see from the video here. But you can, as you're doing this particular activity, you're engaging a series of different muscles. And I usually start people off with just the reach and really kind of reach as high as you can comfortably. If you have shoulder issues and you're kind of reaching more in front of you, that's fine. As you start to loosen up, you can kind of lean into it just a smidge more and start to engage those oblique muscles on the sides of your abdominal region. Right. And so those are important as well. As you're reaching up overhead and you really push that shoulder blade up, you're going to engage this other muscle that lies underneath our shoulder blade. That's important for shoulder stability. We call it the serratus anterior. So we want to really maximize the reach out of that as much as possible. And again, if you need to reach a little bit more forward because you don't have quite the overhead reach, because of a shoulder issue or something like that, that's fine as well. Most of what we're doing here is not going to, burn a whole bunch of calories, but it's very good for just movement. So reaching overhead is a good way to just kind of get started. Just get those shoulders moving. Flexibility, range of motion is going to be very important to your life as a whole. The more that you can maintain that range of motion, the better it's going to be for you. We're going to kind of keep going along with this reaching process here. You can see as I reach forward, get the sun on my hands. There's nothing magical happening there. Not that anybody thought there was, but as we go through this reach forward, we're kind of adding a cross movement with it. And we're just going to stay in this relatively shoulder height type of a reaching position for right now. You can see I'm starting to rotate my trunk with this. And again, what that's doing is it's engaging these abdominal and core muscles a little bit. We're going to get those central abdominal muscles just by kind of actively tightening up those for stability purposes. And as we go through the rotation, we start to add in those oblique muscles a little bit more. And again, when we have strong, stable core muscles, we are less likely to injure ourselves with daily movement. Similarly, when we have a little bit more flexibility and mobility available to us, we are also less likely to injure ourselves with day-to-day activities. So it's important to push those boundaries, but don't push them fast. And you don't necessarily always need to go to end ranges. We're not twisting way around or anything along those lines. We're staying in this sort of neutral, about 30 to 45 degree rotation type of a movement here, just to kind of wake up the joints. If you've been sitting still for a little while, you want to take it easy with waking these things up and not going quickly. Now we're going to reach up and across. So we're kind of hitting some different angles here while we're doing this. And again, easy enough to do all of this stuff while you're sitting here in the chair. You want to actively engage those core muscles. That should not be enough. You can hear, as I get to end ranges, my words get a little bit tighter, because of course I'm engaging those muscles. It makes it harder to breathe as we get to those end points. But you can hear that I am actively able to talk while I'm doing this. So clearly I'm not holding my breath. And I want you to keep that in mind as well. Don't hold your breath while you're doing exercise. It's not good for you. It increases your blood pressure and it just creates elevated tension. So again, as you're doing this, you're intentionally activating those core muscles. You are warming up your shoulders while you're doing this too. And you are burning calories. I said this isn't burning a lot of calories. And in reality, the about 10 minutes that we're spending doing this isn't going to burn a lot, but it's really more about the movement and the function and the activity than it is about anything else. We need to keep ourselves moving. Humans were not meant to sit still all day long. And so any kind of movement that you can create for yourself is going to be good. You're going to see that as I reach across, I kind of lift up onto my toe. My knee comes up, on the side that I'm reaching toward. That's kind of a balance thing, but I think it's also a fidget for me. I'm just in that habit, when we run and we march and things like that, we do an opposite arm, opposite leg thing. I'm not necessarily doing it intentionally. You can do it if you want to. You don't have to do it. You can see if I actively control myself from not doing it, I don't need to do it to do the movement. So like I said, I think for me, it's kind of a fidget. What I'm going to do next is just an overhead reach. And you can do this with a water bottle if you want to. You don't have to have anything, but I'm just going to put my hands up over my head, right? And I'm just going to stretch them up and come back down. Now, if I put weight in my hands to do this, and I have a little weight here, I'll go ahead and grab just a little one. If I put some weight in my hands to do this, it's working my triceps, these muscles along the back of my arms here, it's working my triceps a little bit more. If you don't have weights because, you're at home, you're at work, you're at a computer, you just don't have anything with you, that's fine. I usually tell people, if they have a big water bottle handy, that's a pretty good thing to give you 2 or 3 pounds worth of resistance. And you can always do one at a time if you want to, if you've got a light resistance like that, and switch it off. And then you can even support the elbow if you feel like you need to. Again, if you have shoulder issues and this position is difficult for you to get into, some people will come down a little lower and they'll support the elbow with the opposite hand. But you can also do this both at the same time, and you can do it completely without weight. And you're just reaching behind you. And as you come up, just squeeze those muscles, let them back down, squeeze those muscles, let them back down. For people that don't do much activity, if you're just kind of, and I've got my hands together like in prayer, they don't have to be. But for people that don't do much activity, just actively tightening the muscles sometimes can go a long way compared to doing nothing at all. All right. Now, I mentioned marching before. I'm going to go ahead and march at this point. We're going to let those arms down because, again, the shoulders are probably getting a little tired if you're unaccustomed to it after a little while. We're just going to march. And I am going to go opposite arm, opposite leg, just like I would if I were standing in this case. And I want you to notice that I'm not necessarily lifting my leg real high. I can bring it up higher if I have the flexibility. If I don't have the flexibility, or even if I'm just struggling just to get my leg up at all, that's fine. Any kind of movement at all is going to be better than no movement. A lot of people, I start them with just doing this kind of thing. They brace their hands on the chair and they'll start their movement in this position. If you're doing this, what I don't want you supporting your whole body on this, because as we're doing this marching, we can actively engage those core muscles. The more I support here, the less I need to use my core to stabilize. So as much as possible, try to, if you're going to stabilize with your hands, just try to keep them there for balance. What we don't want is a bunch of shifting around or anything along those lines at this point. Okay, we're going to modify this just a little bit, and we're going to kind of come across. And as we do come across, it will create a little bit of a weight shift. And again, it starts to engage those oblique muscles. If you put your hands on your sides there, as you come across a little bit, not only does it activate the inner thigh muscles, but it also will start to activate those oblique muscles a little bit more. You don't necessarily have to do both of these. If this one is good enough for you for right now, that's fine. If you have the time and the inclination, you can certainly add the march across. Okay, we're going to do one more with the hips here. And what it is we're going to bring the knee up. We're going to bring it out like we're opening a book. Bring it back together, set it down. Bring the knee up, bring it out, back in, set it back down. We're going to do that just a few times on each side. What it does is it starts to activate these muscles in our glutes a little bit more. And our hip and glute muscles are extremely important in our balance and in most of our movements for control and stability. So it's important to get those muscles as active as possible. We want those glutes to stay nice and strong over time. And particularly because they start to help stabilize our knees as our knees get a little bit weaker because we sit too much. And again, most of us probably sit too much. So having nice, strong glutes is going to be a benefit to you in the long run. Okay? One more on each side. There we go. And one more on the other side. And I'm doing that kind of fast. You can do it at your own pace. The last thing we're going to do today is a sit to stand. This is the one thing we're doing standing up. As we stand up, we're going to squeeze those glutes. I'm going to come right back down into sitting. I'm going to get a little sun on my face as I do it. That's fine. And we're coming up and we're squeezing those glutes tight as we come up. And then we sit back down, stand up, squeeze, sit back down. And again, we're just going to pay a lot of attention to how we do this too. You'll notice I lean way forward and then come up, way forward as I go back down. That's important because my head counterbalances my bottom. And so if I do the mechanics correctly here, every time, I'm working also my glutes a little bit more than I am my knees. And I'm using better mechanics. So as a whole, it's less of a strain on my knees. So again, if I have bad knees, I want to pay very close attention to how I do a sit to stand activity. All right, we're going to do just 3 more. Here's 1. Here's 2. And here's 3. And with that, we're going to sit back down one more time, and I'm going to wrap it up with you for this session. Again, it was intended to be a short, just bit of activity to do sometime throughout your day just to get you moving rather than sitting still. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, come back for more. Again, my name is Eric, and I work with Forte. Have a good day.
We here at Forte would like to thank you for watching our video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to follow more of the offerings from Forte, please subscribe below. And don't forget to share us with your friends. Enjoy well-being.